That's it. That's one of the 2 atom bombs that were all the way out on the islands, ready to be dropped on Japan. There were 6 others where those came from that were being assembled, so they could have dropped 8, all told, before they would have run out of it. And the critical path is this: several $billion, 3 years worth of effort. General Leslie Groves in charge of the Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer running the scientists. Groves had previously finished building the Pentagon. I mean, huge, enormous project. Okay? So that was a path to dropping a superweapon on Japan. Truman found out about it only after he was president. A week or so into his presidency, he talked to his Secretary of War, Henry Stimson. Now, Stimson had been a fixture in Washington, D.C. He'd been there forever. He had been Wilson's Secretary of State. Okay? Now, World War II, he's Secretary of War. Okay? Now, when Truman was senator and he headed this committee to find out where all the war profiteering was going on and all the scandals, they were onto something, and they found all sorts of unvouchered accounts and all sorts of money that was seemingly disappearing. Nobody knew where it went. And Truman said to Stimson, I think there's a huge scandal. I think there's something bad going on. And Stimson said, no. He said, you're on to something. I can't tell you what it is. He said, stay away from it. And Truman did, as senator. Stimson comes in a week after Truman's president, says, I have some things to tell you, okay? And gave him an amazing briefing. Now, here's the point in decision-making style. At no point does Truman actually make any decisions about this. All he does is acquiesce and not say no to Stimson. It's a certain style of decision-making. Truman had almost no involvement except as a vetoer-in-chief. There was an advisory committee of scientific administrators. Notice this is an anachronism. Stimson referred to it as the Committee of Top Men. Okay? Vannevar Bush, who was the head of the National Defense Research Committee, chaired it. The president of Harvard, James Conant, a noted scientist, was on it. Carl Compton, president of MIT, a Nobel Prize physicist, was on it. And the Secretary of State designate, James Burns, and Stimson. And they made policy, made decisions, presented it to Truman, and said, is that all right? And Truman's role was either to continue or to veto. The committee recommended that the bomb be used as soon as possible on a dual target, a military installation that would be surrounded by sufficient housing for workers so that destroying both would affect Japan's war effort. It would be dropped without prior warning or demonstration. As the committee said, we can propose no technical demonstration likely to bring an end to the war. We see no acceptable alternative to direct military use. Stimson set up a group of scientists. Some of these on this committee of eminent people, top men, were scientists, but he set up a separate group of scientists. Compton, Oppenheimer, Fermi, and Lawrence, people who ran the labs that were developing this weapon. And they also, under Stimson's guidance, said, no demonstration. We're building it, drop it. There was opposition. General Marshall said, we ought to have initially either a demonstration or, if not that, drop it on a military target. There were dissenting scientists in the Manhattan Project who agreed with that. Emigre scientists such as Leo Szilard and James Frank from the Chicago laboratory. Frank wrote out a report to the War Department that represented the views of a lot of the scientists, particularly in Chicago. Don't use the bomb at all or give the Japanese a demonstration. Stimson ignores their advice, goes to Truman and said, we're ready. We do it, And Truman says, go ahead and do it.